So let's dive into it. Lawmen Bass Reeves, starring David Oyelowo. Okay. What's up, everybody? Marlon Ladd here. All right, so today I'm going to talk about Lawmen Bass Reeves. So I'm doing this series. I hope y'all like it. It's called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I'm going to do this probably at least once a week. I'm going to review certain films, and it's going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly, because most films have that. A little bit about me, if you don't already know, I am an actor, a filmmaker, a director, a writer, and a producer, okay, on the independent level. I've been on this show, Tulsa King. Check me out on the season finale of season 1. I've been in the film Ghoster. I've got a film called A Good Deal coming out next year, A Dangerous Prey, and Beauty, Grace, Malice. All right, so you can follow me on all the platforms as well under Marlon Ladd. So let's get to it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. A lot of people have been asking me what I think about Lawmen Bass Reeves. And the reason why they ask is because I am the first filmmaker to ever do a feature film about Bass Reeves. And I did it more than 20 years ago. I have a vested interest in this, and I'm good friends with Art Burton. And if you don't know who Art Burton is, you need to look him up. He is the foremost expert on Bass Reeves, and he has written 2 books about him. So let's dive into it. Lawmen Bass Reeves, starring David Oyelowo. Okay? Oyelowo is how he said his dad wants people to pronounce the name, but everybody else just says Oyelowo. He is an executive producer on this film, or TV series. So the good is David Oyelowo actually executive produced this television series. I got to give him props for that. Now, there have been other people in the business like Morgan Freeman who bought the rights to Art Burton's book and has had a chance to do this film for more than 20 years. He has known about it. He's never done anything. I mean, he got close, but that doesn't count. So David got busy, got this series done, and that's an amazing feat. To step out on your own to do something like this is taking a huge risk. So got to give him props for that. All right, so the other good thing about this show is that it is a show about Bass Reeves, finally, right? He is arguably the greatest lawman to ever live, and he was the first Black Deputy US Marshal west of the Mississippi. We have been waiting for this for a long time, and what I mean waiting for this, because yes, I did do a film about him, but it was like to do a television series or a film to actually have a good, decent budget that will allow you to do the things that you need to do for a Western. More good. David Oyelowo is a great actor. But unfortunately, now we have to dive into the bad, because that's pretty much all the good there is. Well, the other actors surrounding him aren't so good. Hey, Dennis Quaid, he always brings it, right? So pretty good. But his sidekick? No. Some of the other peripheral characters? No. It doesn't matter how small your role is. If you do a fantastic job, if you do an amazing job, then the story is believable. If you only have one line and you say it like you don't believe it, then people aren't going to believe it, and it will pull your audience out of the story. And overall, the acting is not very good. The other bad, and I go back and forth on this, is David Oyelowo is British. So the reason why that's an issue is because this is an African American hero. And for me and a lot of other people, it's important that our African American heroes that we don't get to see on screen a lot in the first place should at least be played by an African American. I think that's important. It's kind of like a slap in the face. It's like, yeah, you got millions of all of these people and actors here that could play the role, but no, we're going to get somebody from a totally different country that doesn't even understand a lot of the struggle that has to do with slavery and oppression that African Americans have had to deal with and are still dealing with. However, I go back and forth on that because at least David Oyelowo saw this story and actually wanted to do something about it and did something about it. So yeah, I can be like, he's British, he shouldn't be playing an African American hero, until we have a lot of African American heroes that we see on screen, but you know, he did it. So kudos to him for that. So I don't know if you knew this or not, but Bass Reeves was tall. And when I say tall, He was really tall. Bass Reeves became a Deputy US Marshal in 1875. Back then, the average height for a man was 5'5". You hear that? Yeah. Bass Reeves was 6'2". So Bass Reeves was walking around taller and bigger than most everybody. Okay, so he was an intimidating presence. Now, David Oyelowo is only really about 5'7", 5'8". Now, it's not a problem to be short and play a taller character, but the problem is they're not setting him up to even look tall at all. Everybody around him is taller than him, and what that makes you look like is short. Now, it doesn't matter if you're really short, because what they should have done was they should have put people around him that were shorter than he was, right? So that makes him look tall, even if he's not really tall, okay? The budget. Now, I did mention earlier that they actually had a budget for this one, and that's pretty good. It was a decent budget, but I can see some things within this television series that tells me that the budget was not as high as something like that, 1923, 1883, or even Tulsa King. These are other Taylor Sheridan created shows. There's a lot of ways that you can tell the budget is not as good. Okay, you look at named people on the show, you look at the type of actors that they're pulling in, and it doesn't matter if you recognize the name or not. If they're solid, then you know that they are paying good money to get the right people in. The other thing that you notice is landscape shots. So when you do westerns, and you can go back to all the great westerns, I'm talking about like Tombstone, in any of them, if you look at any of the great westerns, what you will see is fantastic landscape shots. Even in 1883, they had these. They showed just the beautiful landscape of wide open territory. And these things are something that you get in westerns that you cannot get in modern day films. They just don't exist in abundance like they did back then. So it's important when you have a western to show these types of things. If you go back to the great movie Tombstone, they showed a lot of exterior wide town shots. They didn't show and haven't shown any of these so far that I've seen in Lawmen Bass Reeves. What that means is they are cheating. It means that maybe they don't have a whole town, or they don't have the budget to populate the town, so they're only showing you an establishing shot of this building and some people standing around it. And I can look and tell that the people standing around it, they don't even look like they're really doing anything. Again, you're going back to budget. That also goes back to directing and things like that. Okay, so that's not good at all. We want to see some stellar shots. Moving on. Set design was not great. Not believable on this show. It has even pulled my wife out of the show. She doesn't even know a lot about this particular time period, and she's saying things that are like, I don't really think they had those back then, or that doesn't look right, or that's not believable. Sometimes you don't know why things pull you out of a show or a movie, but what that usually is, it can be acting, it can be inconsistency in the story, or it can be things that just don't make sense. So for the set design, what it looks like is they went to a location, maybe it's actually a museum that has been preserved, and then they decided to turn it into a movie set and didn't do much set design. What I mean is, like Bass Reeves' house, for instance, on the show, it doesn't look like anybody really lives there. What that could mean is pictures, it could mean candles, it could mean dishes scattered about, it can be clothes scattered about. It's not believable. There's one shirt hanging on the wall when he comes in, then they don't even show the whole place. Again, that goes back to cheating. If you're a filmmaker, if you can't show everything because, hey, this is modern, this is too modern, but we have this room that fits the bill, we're only going to show this room and we're only going to show it from these angles. That's what it looks like they're doing. So that's not believable. All right, now we're going to get to the ugly. Now, let me reiterate. I am very glad that we do have Lawmen Bass Reeves television series on Paramount Plus. But there is some issues, man, there is some issues. So check this out. Taylor Sheridan has all of these shows that he's created. He has Tulsa King, he has 1883, he's got 1923. These are all good shows. These shows have large budgets, okay? But here's the thing. let's compare the Westerns that he's done. Yellowstone, that's one that I left out, okay? So I consider Yellowstone a Western. It's like a modern day Western, but still a Western, okay? 1883 and 1923 with Harrison Ford. So when you go to the IMDb pages of these and you look up the directors and the cast and the writers, okay? I'm gonna tell you on Yellowstone, on 1923 and on 1883, what do you have? White. Okay, most of the cast, yes. The writers, yes. The director, yes. All of that. Okay. Now we always talk about diversity. We need diversity. We need more diversity. Yes, we do need more diversity. Well, why do we have a show that should be predominantly African American, and this show has more diversity than the other ones? And what I mean by that is you would expect that a predominantly black show has a black director, a black writer, a predominantly black cast. That's not the case for Lawmen Bass Reeves. So somebody tell me why. And why do we have a white female directing a show about an African American legendary lawman? No. Not good with that. Again, that is another slap in the face. And don't tell me that we don't have African American super talented directors out there, because we do. So if this show is going to be about a black man, then we need to have representation, not just in front of the screen, but also behind the scenes. That is the only way that it's going to be right, like it should. That is a level of Hollywood arrogance that is so unbelievable to me. Now, they have, 8, 9 writers on the show. You know how many of them are African American that I could find on IMDb? 3. 3. Makes no sense, okay? That is ugly and should not happen. The ugliest thing that I left for last is the fact that they did not use the foremost, highly respected, most knowledgeable researcher out there on Bass Reeves and everything Bass Reeves, and even a lot of stuff just plain Old West, Art Burton. He was not used as a consultant on this show. How you gonna do anything about Bass Reeves without including Art T. Burton? If you're not including him, you're not doing something right. And it's as simple as that. We wouldn't even know about this man's story and know about his story as in depth as we do if it wasn't for Art Burton. This man did so much sacrificing over the years to put pieces together to bring this legendary lawman to light. You are disrespecting that entire legacy if you're not including him. If you are on the level and you're trying to do it right, and this man's story needs to be done right if you have the resources. And obviously they had some resources to be able to do it right. Art T. Burton has to be there, and he has to be there in a large way. And if he's not, then on some level, your show, your movie, or whatever you're doing ain't legit. All right, so that's all I have about Lawmen Bass Reeves. Again, I go back to a lot of you have been curious about my thoughts about the show. Initially, when I watched it, I was very excited. I couldn't wait for it to come out. Although I had like mixed feelings because I already knew some of the things just wasn't gonna be right. But I was still excited because, again, we get a show about Bass Reeves.